Hi guys, round two. So in this round we will talk about the Safavid and the Mughal empires. So same deal. If you have questions after this, post it in the comments section of the blog, not the YouTube video. Um, and I'll have a mini assignment that goes with that as well. All right, so we'll start with the Safavid Empire. Safavid Empire encompasses what is modern Iran today. And of the three gunpowder empires that we are studying, the Ottoman, Safavid, and Mughal, the Ottoman is the smallest. It's going to be the most ethnically and religiously uniform due to developments that were intended by the founder of the empire. So let's take a look at that. So the founder of the Safavid Empire was Shah Ismail. So he started that around the early 1500s. There were various Turkish, Persian, and even some Arab subgroups in the area, and it said that he was able to organize them through a show of force. But probably his most important political weapon was the religion of Twelver Shi'ism, which had been around, but it becomes a state religion under Shah Ismail. We'll get more into that with a presentation on this, and we'll see that has some severe modern effects on modern Iran as well. His group of fighters or military that supported him, but more importantly, fought on the cause of Twelver Shi'ism were the Kizilbash, or the Redheads. So here we have religion and a specific brand of Shia religion conflated with this man, and it becomes a staple and thus makes it more uniform. The geography of the Safavid Empire meant that it was in constant conflict with the two other growing empires of the time period, the Ottoman and the Mughal. But specifically, they were in much conflict with the Ottoman Empire, as they had a long shared border, as well as some religious conflict, as Shia Muslims were somewhat persecuted under the Ottoman sultans, but also the Safavid wanted to expand to get more into the Western trade routes. The most notable battle between the two was the Battle of Chaldiran, which the Ottoman Empire won due to the fact that it had adopted gunpowder technologies far earlier. The Safavid Twelver Shia believed that they were so spiritually pure that they would be impervious to bullets, so they did not adopt guns, but they died because that's not how bullets work. So the Safavid Empire essentially becomes wedged and limited between these two major empires. But the result is a more uniform culture, as most people will convert to Shia Islam. This will have a long-term impact on Iran. It is the state religion today. Also, ethnically, it is more uniform. And so as a result of this, we see it is able to brew a very specific sense of cultural nationalism over a long period of time, which will help to shape it in the modern era. So we're going to stop our study of the Safavid Empire there because that's all we really need to know for these purposes, but we're getting a preview for the future. So now we'll skip to the Mughal Empire. And to bring us up to speed, we'll remember that the previous political organization of India up until this point was, and up north we had the Delhi Sultanate, which essentially was founded by the work that the Ghazni Patriarchs had done. So generally, Muslim minority ruling over a mixed population, but very unstable. Remember, 19 out of their 35 sultans were executed, so very unstable. Down south, we have an amalgamation of different empires, the Vijayanagar and the Chola kingdoms, but generally speaking, we are very reliant on the caste system and these regional kings for supporting that. Everybody's super wealthy because trade is happening, so that's that. But the Delhi Sultanate begins to crumble, mostly just due to corruption and financial mismanagement. And the Vijayanagar and Chola kingdoms were never really centralized anyway. And so when we see the rise of Babur, who claimed descendants of Genghis Khan and Tamerlane and other great nomadic peoples, he is able to consolidate various groups and slowly take over India under the banner of the Mongols, as Mughal means Mongol. So the Emperor Babur was able to conquer most of the Indian subcontinent, but our main man that we really should know is Akbar the Great. Akbar the Great was technically a Muslim and he was of Turkish descent, but he's best known for creating a sense of tolerance and interfaith cooperation during his reign. First, he ended the jizya, that poll tax, which not having to spend that money obviously meant a lot to the Hindus and various other groups and religious groups within India. He also married a Hindu princess, and by doing this, he was able to reach out to key families, assuage them, make these political alliances, and it did help to soothe some of those wounds. He put a lot of money into education, the arts. This is definitely a golden age for India. So even though he himself was Muslim, he allowed for a lot of religious, cultural, and really even political autonomy. He even went so far as to try to create a whole new faith that would transcend Hinduism and Islam, a faith that put him as the divine center of it and never fully took off, but we can see he saw the challenges of his diverse empire and tried to fix them. The next emperor, Shah Jahan, inherited the stability and the wealth that Akbar the Great had built, and thus we see this as a continuation of that golden age, and from it we have the best example of Mughal architecture, which is the Taj Mahal, seen here. This was actually a funerary temple or mausoleum for Mumtaz Mahal, Shah Jahan's wife. So it's a very romantic gesture, even though there are lots of rumors surrounding the architects and the builders were all killed afterwards so that they could never produce anything else. But here we see obvious Muslim influence with the domes and the minarets and all of that, and just how absolutely splendid this beautiful building is shows that this is a very golden age, extremely wealthy, and that these leaders had an obvious amount of power. While Akbar the Great and Shah Jahan ruled over these magnificent time periods, they made a very grave mistake, and that big mistake was allowing the Europeans to have a great presence in the port cities all around India. So we can see on this map the extent to which various European groups, such as the British, the French, and the Portuguese, not just settled, but began to own these major port cities first under the guise of these trade companies and eventually under the crowns themselves. So by losing the wealthiest parts of India, as trade has always been so important to India, essentially they're losing their autonomy, and over time these European groups, especially these trade companies, begin to have more and more political power. So when the Mughal Empire loses its unity, we'll see these Europeans can creep further into the political realm of India. The beginning of the end of the Mughal Empire began with the rise of Aurangzeb, who was a particularly devout Muslim. Aurangzeb, shown here with sword in hand, led multiple military campaigns against Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, and especially Sikh groups, trying to forcibly convert them to Islam. He also reinstituted the jizya, and it made it extremely expensive, and as a result, became severely unpopular. So other Indian groups, whether regional kingdoms or specific religious groups, began to look for powerful allies elsewhere, and as you can imagine, the most powerful people nearby were the Europeans. And so we start to see some allegiances between key kingdoms, key rajas, and key religious groups with the British mostly, but also some other European groups. After Aurangzeb, we see the slow decline of the Mughal Empire due to multiple uprisings, rebellions by various groups against Aurangzeb specifically, and as I said, certain key alliances between certain Rajas and European groups slowly transferred more and more power to European groups. Britain specifically begins to work its way into British politics since they dominated the economic sphere of most of India, especially the coastal regions, which were making a ton of money. And whenever one country is running your purse strings, they're running you. Europe won't begin to directly control India until the mid-1800s, but this process really does begin with trade first and with Aurangzeb's dismantling of the Mughal Empire. There are some key cultural developments during the Mughal era of India which are worth noting. The first of which is the birth of the Sikh religion in India, and another is the formalization of the Urdu language. Sikhism was founded by Guru Nanak in the late 15th century. In his faith, we see some influences of the reigning religions of the time. So, founded in the Punjab region, we see some effect of Islamic teachings in that he and all Sikhs reject the idea of caste and class, but is profoundly influenced by Hinduism in the belief in karma and reincarnation and many other values of Hinduism. But it's ultimately its own faith, and its true goal is oneness or union with God. There were 10 overall gurus. In fact, their holy book is also considered a living guru. Due to the extreme violence that the Sikhs had experienced under the Mughals, the 10th Guru began the tradition of the Khalsa, or the Saint Soldier, which simply means a baptized Sikh. It means a spiritual defense and spiritual purity, but also mobilized into a militarized brotherhood of the Sikhs who did use force to protect themselves against the brutal Mughals. Here we see a devout Sikh man in front of the Golden Temple at the site of Amritsar. What people best know about Sikhs probably is that they grow their hair long and wear a special turban known as a dastar. The dastar and growing your hair long is one of 5 main symbols of a Khalsa, or a baptized Sikh. So the 5 holy symbols of a baptized Sikh man, and there are female counterparts to these, is the kara, or the iron bangle, iron for strength. The circle is obviously for eternity and reincarnation and all that. The kanga, or a wooden comb, is to promote cleanliness. The cash, again, is the hair. The kirpan harkens back to the saint soldier system, in which they have to actively resist not just against evil as a spiritual force, but harkens back to the times when they were physically oppressed. Then lastly, you have the kashara. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but that is a special pair of underwear, awkwardly shown in this picture, to promote purity, character, all of those things. So men and women, once baptized, are expected to lead pure lives in fulfillment with oneness with God. So there are male and female parts or counterparts to these symbols. And this is Waris Ahluwalia, my favorite Sikh. I just think he's handsome. He's been in some Wes Anderson movies, and Gap recently used him in an ad, as you can see. And so there you go. He's handsome. And back to the lesson, the other major cultural development in this age is the solidification of the Urdu language, similar to Swahili, a blended language that resulted from years of trade and interactions. Urdu is a blend of Arabic, Persian, and Hindi, and will eventually become the main language of what is now Pakistan today. So this is something that should be noted as a cultural change. All right, so there you have it, the end of the mini lesson on the Safavid and Mughal empires. Same as before, there'll be a short assignment attached to this due on Wednesday morning before you get to school. All this stuff is game for the comparative and the multiple choice coming up. So there you go. Bye.